Welcome to the IBM API Management demo. We have organized this demo starting with the consumer experience, then progressing through the lifecycle from create onward, with sections focused on specific roles in the order which we typically pitch to prospective customers. We are also using the IBM Cloud Pak for integration with IBM API Connect 10.0.2, which was made generally available back in April 2021. Let's get to work. So first, let's put on our API consumer hats, app developer hats. As always, a dev portal is an extension of a brand, and APIs are an extension of products. And with API Connect, we make it very easy to make a customizable and easy to use dev portal. So here I'm not logged in yet, as you can see, and this page has been customized using Drupal 8. So as you kind of look around, there's get started buttons. I can actually look into a few different APIs that have been made available for anyone to look at. And then everything else is very easy to customize. So as you can see, there's a bunch of cool graphics. We've linked up our Twitter profile. There's blogs and forums and support, privacy policy, and everything else. But let's sign in as a user. So before we sign in, I'm going to show you what the create account looks like. So everything about this process can be customized to meet the needs of the organization that is creating this. So in this case, we have two different types of ways to sign in. There's a sign up with a corporate LDAP and then an OIDC methodology. Here, we added a lot more for the corporate LDAP to include email address. It's actually a postal address here where we can go in and, a customized postal field that works really cool. So I can put United States and it comes up and has me put all the rest information. This might be needed for regulatory uses or for open banking laws in Europe and elsewhere. We have the name of the organization, a password. We can have custom password rules that meet our organization. Our terms of rules can be customized and put right here. We have different types of authentication. We can sign up to show how much of this is customizable. Here's another one that is much faster and easier to get through, but each organization can determine exactly what they need in order to create a signed up account and to authorize someone access. But I'm going to sign in. I already have an account with our persona, Andre. Sorry, I got to sign with the OIDC. So I'm going to sign in with the OIDC instead of corporate LDAP. And I already signed in earlier, so we kept the token from earlier, and I signed in because I clicked on the 14 days. So I'm signing as Andre. I can go through the process real quick, and I can create an organization. I can go to my apps and see the apps that I have. I can create a new app very easily. Here I'm going to call it my second app. I can put my OAuth redirects. I can add other items that I might want, and then here is another piece of customization that we added. And again, anything can be customized to any workflow. So here we need a department code, and that it actually has authorization. It's got it looks for certain criteria. So if I just put random digits in there, it'll actually come back as invalid because it has to be in this process. So DEP 1, 2, 3. It needs a DP number, so I can add that. And again, all this is customizable, and that's really important as we have this process. I can go in and I can see my key really quickly. I'm not going to show you that what it looks like, but I can copy both of those. And of course, the secret's already done once. And now I've got my app dashboard where I can see my API calls from one spot. I can see my subscriptions, which I haven't subscribed to anything yet. And now let's go for a journey through the rest of the dev portal. So I'm going to go back to the main screen here. So I'm going to explore some more products. There's a bunch of products that can be listed. I'm going to go and check out, this consumer banking app. Looks interesting. And what's really unique about API Connect is that we allow many different types of APIs to live next to each other. So you see that there's a REST API, there's a GraphQL API, there's actually async Kafka APIs, all in the same area. So I can learn about them. I can explore them from one spot. So I can go to a REST API, find ATM, and click on it. I can go through the process and to try it out. Just using a quick send. I can go back and I can go to GraphQL and I can do the exact same thing. But as you'll notice with GraphQL, try it out. It actually has the GraphQL graphical interface here. So it's got a different type of perspective there. And then if I go and try out, if I try out a Kafka queue, I can go in and actually see my balance change, and I can see that I've got a full async API here. I can learn more about, understand how to use, and I can actually learn about how these APIs work, how to consume them, and so much more. So having APIs right next to each other of different types is so critical. What's even more interesting is, as I go into a different set of APIs for Acme Bank, I can actually go into unenforced APIs as well. So here's the Stripe API. It's straight from Stripe, and I can actually put from either different API management platforms, different gateways, AWS gateway, for example. I can put them right in here for easy consumption. So we can very quickly learn and use and try out APIs with ease. So all your API management needs are in one spot as a developer. I can get one API key. I can manage one lifecycle. I can understand what's going on from one spot without having to go to different dev portals or different solutions. They can all be underneath one product. And again, this is so critical when we talk about a API strategy. Is having your APIs set up as products. And of course, I can go to the forums if there's any issues. I can go to support and see what the latest and greatest is. I can go to socials, which are all linked together. I can go to blogs and see what the greatest blog is and if there's any updates coming up. And of course, I can manage my organization and add other people to it. So if I want to add other developers to this organization, I can do it very quickly. And of course, I can set up billing. As we talk about billing a little bit. Billing is critical, for different industries. And if we go into Acme Bank, for example, I can learn about these APIs, and I can see that there's a default plan, that's much lower in what it is, like 100 calls per hour. We have a premium plan here that costs $10 per month with 10 trial days, and these are for the best customers. But I can learn about each of the rate limits under each of them and understand more about how everything works before I subscribe to either a premium plan with again, monetization enabled, or I can have a pure free plan that doesn't require a credit card to be entered. So from one spot I can work on my billing details, my full analytics, we haven't made a call yet, and see where I am on that rate limiting journey. As you can see, the dev portal is 100% customizable and is built to purpose for any type of business. Now we're going to look at how APIs are created.
Now let's start at the beginning, which is the API lifecycle, and focus on the API developer persona. With multi-style integration being widely adopted, API developers need a solution that allows them to utilize existing data as easily as creating new ones. Let's start by creating an API with a backend to Salesforce. This is done to empower the digital teams to create new leads for Acme Bank without giving them keys to Salesforce. Now the digital team captures these fields and add it to the Salesforce by doing a post customer details operation. We have a wide variety or wide range of connectors that enables developers to connect to different backends, data stores, content management systems. Now, I have already pre-configured the Salesforce, as you can see here, and all I have to do is connect the data fields from my request to this backend. We've added a smart mapper, Watson Smart Mapper, to provide mapping assistance to developers to make this whole creation process a lot easier. As you can see, I have got 3 suggestions and they are perfect. So I'm good to go. So I'm going to apply these 3 suggestions, and I've also got the suggestion that employer should be mapped to company, which is perfect. Now that I have added all the mapping here, I'm going to click done, and I am actually good to go. So what we have done here is we've added an integrated experience where I take the backend and turn it into an API, as you can see from here. And once the API is done, I can add the transformations, I can add the policies to this API here. For example, if I just want to add a rate limit, It's as easy as a drag and drop. And I am actually good to go. So once I'm done with adding the policies, I can quickly publish this API and it gets published to the developer portal. So what you see here is we have a tight integration to the API management, and I can configure and control my API invocation. So now that I've published the API, let's take a look at the developer portal here.
Product is published in this sandbox developer portal, which is built for easy development and testing purposes.
Let's move on to the API creation experience. APIs come in different flavors. We have REST 2.0, 3.0, GraphQL, SOAP, and async APIs from Kafka topics. So let's assume, like as an API developer, I have finished developing this credit report API. To enable rapid API development, we have improved the API editor experience with tree-like navigation, allowing me to access any part of the document easily by just selecting what I want to see. And we have two different viewing options here, the form view and the source view, giving me the flexibility to pick and choose what I'm comfortable to work with. Now let's get started with auto-publishing this API to make sure it's working and free of bugs. So what I'm doing is I'm auto-publishing here with a simple toggle action and not have to worry about creating a product and publishing it in a catalog. Once I publish or auto-publish this API, you see that the test tab appears, and this is where we provide an interactive debugging experience to quickly troubleshoot if anything is wrong with the code. The paths are pre-populated along with the parameters here. So I'm going to quickly click on send, and as you can see in this response section that I have my payload in two different formats, parsed and raw. There is the headers, which gives me information about my request and response header, and I also have the status code and response time here. The trace tab actually shows how the API call was executed. Now, if you remember, I have a redact policy added, but when you look at the response, none of my fields have been redacted. So there is something wrong with this redact policy. Now let's quickly figure out what went wrong. Now I know something is wrong with redact, so I'm going to look at the redact log here to understand what went wrong. So from the drop-down menu, I chose redact, and I am looking at my redact policy here, which shows that the number of executions is 0. So if you look at my field, which I am probably redacting, is my ID. But if you look at the actual data field, it's the customer ID. So there's a mismatch in the fields here. So let's quickly go and correct that. And click on save. So as you can see, API Connect automatically publishes the API for me. So once I click on save, it automatically republishes and potentially saving me from hundreds of clicks that I would have to do to republish this API every time I make a change to it. Now, if you've noticed, redact is a very useful policy to hide or redact sensitive fields like SSN or credit card numbers from your request response or even logs for legal and security reasons. So this is a very easy to use policy that uses the powerful JSON RTA expression. Now let's go back and test this out. As you can see, my customer ID has been redacted. Now what I would like to call out here is you can look at the data power log in two different levels. So one is the basic that you're seeing here, and I can also take a look at the advanced tracing information here. Now the trace has a lot of information, but a couple of highlights that I would like to call out is you have information about the pre-flow action, which is basically the CORS, your client ID, rate limit, and authentication that got executed. The main rule here also has details or information about the policies that got executed as part of the API execution. You also get information about the memory usage and latency for each of the policies, which enables developers to quickly optimize their API if it's taking too long. Now that we have debugged our code, our testing doesn't and shouldn't stop here. We have to ensure that the APIs behave exactly the way it needs to. And for that, API Connect, we have something called the AI Infused automated testing. It enables developers and testers to generate test scripts from a single button click without having to write a single line of code. So here I've launched my test application, and I'm going to quickly generate a test case from an actual endpoint. You can also generate test cases from your Swagger document. So this is the endpoint, and as you can see, I have got a response along with the status code, latency, fetch, and total time. Now all I have to do is click on generate, provide a test case name, and save it to a project which I'm going to use Acme Bank Details. As you can see, the test case is already generated for me by the tool. We have various test assertions added to it, checking for status code, headers, and the data types in my payload. I can add more assertions if I like, or if I want to make changes to the assertions here, I could do so. I can edit each of the assertions, and once I'm satisfied with all the changes that I've done, I can run this test to make sure that all my assertions are working fine. As you can see, I'm purely using the UI here to make changes, which makes it easy for the devs and testers basically to modify or maintain the test cases as changes are done to the code. So my test has passed, and I feel confident with my test case. So I'm going to save this test case, and we're good. So when the code changes are committed to the SCM, your CI/CD pipeline is triggered. And when this happens, your test cases must be executed automatically. Now, integrating the test cases as part of your DevOps pipeline can be easily done using the API hooks. So API hooks are secured using the keys here, which I've already generated for Acme Bank. I have the secret, and I'm going to be using this API hook as a means to interact with my project and run all the test cases as part of my CI/CD pipeline. Now the test cases are also supported in the JUnit format, which allows you to easily integrate with a Jenkins pipeline setup. Now when we talk about CI/CD pipeline and DevOps, I would also like to mention that API Connect has an extensive set of REST APIs and CLI commands to write scripts and automate it as part of your CI/CD pipeline. And here are some sample scripts that we have for publishing a product using the toolkit. And what is a toolkit? It is nothing but the developer edition of the API editor and the CLI that you just saw, which enables custom developers to actually work independently on their laptop. It is a simple install and can be downloaded and installed from the API Manager UI that you're seeing here. Now, when we talk about testing APIs, it is also super important to make sure that the APIs are secure. Now, many aspects of OWASP Top 10 can be done using API Connect. But what I'm going to show you for this demo is how to test the top two OWASP security mechanisms, which is the broken object authorization and authentication. So I have already created a test case here that generates the access token to make a successful call to this API endpoint, which is secured using OAuth. And in this case, I have used API Connect as the native OAuth provider. Now let's quickly run this test to show you that my token has been successfully generated and I have successfully made a call to this endpoint. Now let's go back to the test case and change the client secret and see what happens. As you can see, my test case has failed, indicating that my authentication is incorrect, and so I was not able to make a call to the API. Now let's add that back and change the scope. And now let's run this test. Even though I have successfully generated the token, my call to the actual endpoint has failed, which shows the broken authorization. I don't have the right scope, so I couldn't access the endpoint.
Hey Swetha, I'm going to take over for 1 second and just show our new automated test tools that just GA'd a few months ago. So I can go through that same process that we just went through. Here we've got a very simple book info type of API. And as you can see, I'm just filling out real quick like you did earlier. And then I can actually go down to template from specification with little lightning bolts. And I can upload a quick file, and of course we're going to integrate this all together here in the near future. So I'm just uploading a Swagger 2.0. Then I can click save. And from here I can do smart generation. This is actually uses some AI to make a very quick smart generation test suite. So as you saw earlier, that was kind of the manual process we're doing it. Here I'm going to smart generation, and what I should build is all we have here is a get for a book, but and book ID. But what our test tool can do, which is unique, is that you can automatically start to create an entire test suite. So here you see that there's a post up top there. There's two posts, one to create a book, one to actually create a library, and then I can make sure that I can get the ID after it's all done. Then we automatically go down and delete what we just made. So yeah, those posts and gets, and then we delete that new book and library that we made earlier. So not only do we test and make sure the API is working as it's supposed to, but we actually create assets and delete assets as a part of the test suite. And again, our philosophy around testing is not just to test APIs, but to actually test anything that changes inside our organization. So if a backend database is being upgraded, you should be running test suites for the API to make sure it all works properly. And this again can write to it and delete it to make sure that your information is good and you can do it in production. All right, I'm going to transition real quick and show off our GraphQL capabilities. As we talked about earlier, there's a lot of different choices for making APIs. Our concept of any point is really important. So I can go into GraphQL very quickly. And what's important is that we don't just proxy APIs, right? Like we want to create an experience that actually helps our customers go forward and bring their toy APIs and make them public. So we talked to customers to figure out what the biggest issues were with their APIs. And the biggest one that came up was that GraphQL is very powerful, but can cause a lot of danger. So here, I just fill out this form very quickly. Then we introspect to the endpoint and get the schema automatically. We can also, if that fails for whatever reason, if introspection is not turned on, you can also upload an API here, either here or through CI/CD pipelines for your GraphQL schema. And at this point, we can actually turn on and off introspection and the editor, the GraphQL editor. And we have this new concept that's called cost. And cost is really important because we actually added technology to our gateway to parse the body of a GraphQL call, see what's being asked for, add up all the values, and we actually came up with a new type of rate limiting around GraphQL. We also have these two warnings I'll talk about more in a second. These are warnings that actually make GraphQL smarter. So after that, I can very quickly start to edit the API, and that's where we get into all the cool stuff. So here in GraphQL schema, you'll notice that there's two warnings here. So I can go in and see what these warnings are, and these warnings are all around that parsing and counting aspect of it. So every data type and every field type has a type weight, and if there is any kind of question that the gateway might have, like how do I count this? Is this a limit? Is it not a limit? We just ask, and we want you to actually answer so we can add it up and make sure that we are enforcing the rate limit in the best possible way. But we don't just leave the onus on you. We actually give recommendations. So here there's two different recommendations about what we could do. We could call this a limit, and you can pass the limit through as a argument, or you can have an assumed size of a list. And then for the second one, there's this thing called 3 special days. It's got 3 in the number, and so we recognize it's a list, so we can add that as well. So I'm just going to apply those very quickly. And we just made the schema smarter. Well, we can always replace the schema. We can download the schema. We can view the source of the schema. And you can also make your API very powerful by actually, let me save it real quick, but by actually going in and changing the show or hide function. So I can show this in schema, I can hide it in schema, or I can add custom expressions. So I can show this line name to a certain PORG, to a certain API key, to a certain plan, for example. So only certain plans can see this. So in reality, what we're doing is taking one schema and making an infinite number of schemas. So for a particular plan, you can see name, it might be turned on, and for maybe the default plan is turned off. It's really important when we get into things like credit cards, right? Or social security numbers or other information that a bank wants to pass along to some people, but doesn't even want to show it in the schema or give any option to try to call it. So after we're done setting the fields and the weights for each of the fields, so here I can set up credit card and make it like 4, or I can go into each of them and set them in different ways. Then I just click save, and then I just turn it on like you saw earlier. And what's really powerful here is that I can go into test real quick, and I actually do API graphical type of tests right from here. So in one button click, I can send different queries, make sure that they all work, make sure that the rate limiting is all working properly, and I'll show more about how the rate limiting is applied to products here in a few minutes. But yeah, the actual trace works, just like it should. So you can go through and actually trace everything. You can do a full trace and advanced trace, just like you saw earlier. But what we can also do is I can take this endpoint that we saw, and I can give out this endpoint as well, and we can actually bring up the graphical interface that we saw earlier. And then with that client ID that we had earlier, we can actually set up client IDs. So we can very quickly just copy this, and now we can give this out. Or someone goes to the dev portal and gets the API key and secret, they can utilize the graphical interface and still have some security. So I'm just going to type in a quick query here we did earlier, and I can have the same interface that we have elsewhere. So it's a very fast and easy way to see exactly what's going on. So if I go back to this interface, just one last cool thing about it is I can go over to test. If I don't even know GraphQL or don't know a query, I can just ask for an example. It'll pull up a functional example, and we can actually get functional example interfaces here. And the rate limiting, of course, is being utilized in the back ends for future use as well. So that's GraphQL, and we made it easy and fast for anyone to bring GraphQL, to the front end. And as we showed you earlier, it's just a part of your API strategy now. You can just add it to any existing product and use that same API key, OAuth, and other strategies you have. API creation and automated testing and lifecycle is a critical part of the API management process. APIs have to be viewed like products from any other company. They have to be packaged and marketed in the right way to meet the organizational API strategy goals, be internal or external. This can be done by an API product manager. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to start to look at APIs from a product manager point of view. So I'm going to go into develop. I can add a new product. I'm actually going to create a new product right now. I'm going to call it Acne Bank APIs. I got my version control. I can have a summary here. And I actually start to create my product. What's really interesting and important is that you can add many different types of APIs to a API product. So I can add a normal open API spec. I can add a third-party API that's not even managed by Data Power, our gateway, for example, but we still may want to show internal and external parties. I can put some Istio. I can put SOAP APIs. I can put GraphQL, all in the same products. After that, I can quickly add different plans here. I'm just gonna click next right now. I can also decide if it is published right now. I can also set the visibility on the dev portal to decide if it's public, authenticated, or custom. If it's custom, I can actually select different consumer orgs to see it, and this is to even see it in a dev portal. I can make it so you have to log in and be authenticated, or I can just make it public so you can see the APIs. And of course, to actually subscribe, you either have to be authenticated, or again, you can actually add groups here however you want. So this is really important if there's partners. Maybe a partner can see a certain type of API and you can add them here as custom. You can also add groups here as well. So it doesn't have to be an organization. A group could be something like external partners, and only external partners can see a particular type of API. I'm going to set this up as public and authenticated. Now I'm going to go and edit the product and show you, the real power here. So, I can add more information, licensing, terms of service, all the important stuff there. I can, once again, look at visibility. Then I can go into each and every API itself and make sure that the right APIs are here. If I go to plans here, I can actually set up plans very quickly. I can choose a billing integration. So I'm going to actually show you how to do monetization. So I can choose that billing integration that I've already set up earlier. And then I can add a new plan. So I can add a plan. I'm going to call it premium plan for my best customers. I can turn on pricing for this plan, and I can set it as being, I'm going to set it so everyone gets 10 free days, and it costs $10 a month to utilize this plan. And then I can set up the different rate limits that are included in this plan. So I can set up, traditional rate limits. They can have very different types of values. So I can put this as hour, day, and then I could put one for week. And day and week might be like, I can put 1,000 on a day, and I put 10,000 on a week, and I can spread it out however I want. I can also have burst plans to make sure that my backend isn't destroyed. So that might be 10 calls per second and 100 calls per minute. So if I really need to burst for whatever reason, I can do that. We also have GraphQL rate limiting. So this is very important that we showed off earlier, but we have our own cost mechanisms for GraphQL. I can go in and actually set that up. So we have field costs. I can have the different types of type costs, and I can set it up, per hour again, or per minute per second. So I'm gonna set these up as per second because I want this GraphQL rate limit to be pretty powerful here, and it is premium. So I might even make that 100, to really give them some juice. I can set up assembly burst limits. So this is inside of the assembly for different paths. I can set up burst limits and count limits as well. So as we start to add this all up, it really becomes a very powerful, tool that I can actually add different assemblies here. And And now when I go into an assembly later on, I can actually, have a burst limit based on a type of call. So I can call this like a get call, and that cost is going to be 10 and per 1 second. So I can add that as well. And after everything is done, I can, even add more functionality. I can customize my API list and even, go into each of these and edit the operations for each of them, and have a different rate limiting. It goes really into detail, into each of these APIs. So, I can edit the operation list, and I can decide if they're part of the API. There's a lot of power here. Again, this is about creating an API strategy. After I'm all said and done, I can click Save. And the plan's been saved, and now I can actually stage it, or I can straight up publish it if I want. I'm going to publish this to prod, so it shows up in that the sandbox. And I press publish, and it'll show up there here in a few seconds. Great. So another responsibility is to actually go and check and make sure everything is working well inside of that catalog. So I can go into a catalog and very quickly, see who my consumers are, what applications are being used. So here, let me actually go to one that has some. I can see what applications are on there. I can go in and see the credentials, disable, view the subscriptions that they have at this time, and really get some information about my users. I can see, tasks itself to do. So if there's an approval that has to be done, I can go in and check it off. I can of course see analytics. So, I can go into, my default API and see if there's anything in there. So let me go into my sandbox catalog and show you that. So I've been doing some API calls in there. And I can very quickly see, what kind of errors I'm having. We made some errors here to make it so I can see what the errors are. If there's a response time that's pretty high, I can see, what's going on with each of my APIs. I can go back and actually, look at events and errors in detail. So I can actually look at the, in-depth information about, what's going on for errors. And again, I can, make very nice, high-level, reports that I need to make very important business decisions. I can add members to a catalog very quickly. And as we go over in more detail, as we talk about members here, the ability to add a member with a large amount of detail in that RBAC type role is really important. So I can add someone in here that can just view information. I can make up new roles that have very precise meanings. So if I go into roles here, I can add a new role that has a lot of detail. So if all I want someone to do is be able to see the topology, and that's it. It might be like a admin for topology, and then I can just save that, right? And now I have a new type of role that is very, very limited, and again, that adds a lot of security, we'll talk about later on. So as a product manager, I want to have complete control end-to-end of my products, and this API Connect gives you the ability to do that. Everything from adding prices to it through our monetization tool, through being able to go in and actually decide which APIs are added to your products, to being able to go in and take an API through its entire life cycle. So if I go into a product real quick, I can go into an API, and I can I can deprecate it, I can retire it, I can replace it, I can supersede it, I can set a migration target, I can go in and edit everything we talked about earlier, I can view the plans, manage APIs. There's just so much power here in just a few clicks. So if I decide to deprecate this API, I can go in and deprecate it, with a button click. If I decide to retire an API or set a migration target, I can do that in a few seconds. Then you can make sure that your customers know where an API is going, and they can easily be migrated to it. That's it. So I'm going to pass it off, and we're going to talk in depth about the world of CISOs. I want to talk about something that's oftentimes overlooked but very, very important, and that is security and operations. So security is fundamental to everything we do at API Connect. We have a world-class military-grade gateway that's trusted across the planet. It comes in 4 different form factors. The physical appliance, of course, but we also have Linux, VM, and container, with a tremendous amount of investment in the latter. Data Power containers run on Red Hat's UBI, and the gateways can run with a stateless model to enable cloud-native HA options that also reduces attack vectors. So, I'm just going to show you real quick all the different policies that are available to you. You've seen them many times during this presentation, but I just want to walk through a few of them. So we of course have transformations, JSON to XML, XML to JSON, redaction that you saw earlier in the presentation, parse, which is a really, really powerful policy that gives you a lot of capabilities for security, to actually look at content type, to look at different settings, and to actually look inside of the message itself and make sure that there's nothing dangerous coming in. There's a number of policies. That invoke policy, of course, has a lot going for it. So not only do we invoke, but it also allows for authentication mechanisms, compression, caching, to include time to live and no caching, of course. There's different types of injection proxy headers, payload, redirects, allow lists and block lists for header and parameter controls, stop errors. So there's a lot of power baked right into to our assembly, and to include the ability to generate and validate JWT tokens on the run. Now, as I go back here for a second, I'm just going to point out, we also have a lot of other resources to include the ability to make OAuth, use third-party OAuth providers and make a native OAuth token that's actually produced right here inside of our gateway. So, this is a very simple one that's shared, but you can very quickly create an OAuth token, get the OAuth token, have a whole bunch of scopes, and have a lot of power inside of token management, for example. So, we can revoke tokens and really make it simple and easy for you to have a full OAuth strategy inside of a company. Now, resources are really important. So as you look at TLS resources, OAuth providers, billing information, as you looked at earlier, these different resources are critical to how a organization can move beyond just one layer and move to a full API strategy. So we allow you to actually do resources at the provider org level, down to the catalog level. So we have different catalogs here. So we can actually go in and have catalogs of catalogs called spaces. So in each of these could have their own set of resources, their own set of settings. Your own OAuth providers, your own user registries, your own roles, your own gateway services. Each of them your own TLS client profiles. And this allows you to build a strategy from the bottom up or the top down. So in this case, each team, marketing team, mobile team might have the different settings. That rolls up to a catalog, which can have its own settings, and the catalog has a dev portal. So you've got this one view that's across everything, but you can enable these different spaces to allow syndication. What you can also do is have it at the top level. So across your entire cloud, you can have one set of resources that trickle down. So in this case, like Google OIDC can trickle down to the entire, to a P-org. In this case, it's private, so I can go in and I can make it for all the provider orgs, or I can provide it for some provider orgs. So this is really important for OAuth since it's so complex. Making OAuth across everything is really simple, and then you can save it right here and save it, across all the resources to make it really, really powerful. And this type of governance is just critical to developing that full API strategy that we're always going for. So beyond just that, we can also look at our admin hub to see, make sure everything is up and running properly. So, I can look at the status of the cluster. I can look at the status of the entire cloud deployment. I can make sure everything is up and running how it's supposed to. Make sure everything is up, and as you can see, everything is up and running. I can go into it and actually get more information as well. I can also click around and go and see different traces and make sure that everything is pinging properly, and make sure that that everything is up and running. So I can actually go in and see that that API Connect is up and running and that everything is optimal. Last but not least, I'm going to show you how API Connect and its gateway can integrate easily with Istio, and other microservice processes. So first and foremost, the gateway has really undergone a lot of transformation over the last few years. It's gone from a physical appliance to a VM to now a very capable cloud-native gateway. It is built on OpenShift's UBI now. It can auto-scale, and be a part of a cluster, and can now run in production at one core. So it's very capable of being an edge gateway, or right there on the very edge of a service mesh or a Kubernetes cluster. But as we go into a product, I already have one here that is a Istio product. I can go in and actually look at the assembly here, and as we walk through it a little bit, what our goal here is, as we try to add more context into the mesh, is to give more metadata to an API call. So using out-of-the-box policies, we can set a variable, and in this case, we're setting a variable to include the plan. So if we have a plan that's called default, and maybe another one that's called beta or developer, we can actually start making decisions inside of a mesh based on that plan. We can set up a claim for JWS, a JWT token, and then we can actually generate one and then send it into the mesh. So using out-of-the-box Istio policies, then we can very quickly and agilely, I'm going to show you this. So I'm going to bring this up here real quick, and we can actually start to add metadata into the mesh. So with that metadata, like a plan, we can start to route traffic based on a plan. So a plan called premium plan, for example, can be sent, can send traffic to stable version, where all the rest of the plans, like default or developer plan, might go to beta version. We can also start to enforce JWT policies across the board. Because Data Power can create a JWT token and can validate a JWT token, you can set up a policy very quickly across the mesh to enforce a JWT token created at the edge using Data Power. So this is a very quick and agile way that you can start to add more and more microservice, service mesh, and Istio power into an API with out-of-the-box policies we already have. So today we showed you everything with API management and API Connect, but as you know, you still have to get it set up. And I just want to show you how easy it is to get API Connect up and running, to add more gateways, to add more environments to API Connect. So all you have to do is go here to Integration Capabilities, click on that as admin, of course. I can create a capability. Here's where I can add another integration designer, tracing, dashboard, different automation assets, but here I'm going to add API management. I can do a minimum 3-node, event endpoints with one mode. So I'm going to do that. I can click next, and then I can very quickly set it up. I can either look at the YAML for setting up, or I can use the UI right here, set up advanced settings. I just go through it very quickly and get it all set up. And it's that fast and effective to go through the process of customizing API Connect, to get up and running, and of course to create it. And again, I turn on advanced there, so non-advanced is very quick. Upgrading is also just as fast and easy. To upgrade, all I have to do is go over here, change version, and see if there's a latest version. So I have the latest version right here. I can turn on a channel for automatic upgrades, but as you can see, I have the latest version of API Connect, or ACE right here. I can go to API Connect as well and make sure I have the latest version. And in one button click, I can upgrade any of my capabilities. So from installation to creation to management to publishing to consumption, API Connect makes API management easy, fast, and agile.